Hello and welcome to our the first of our speaker series programs for the 21-22 school year. Yay! We are the Center for Future Educators at TCNJ, and our goal is to recruit future educators from middle and high schools around the state of New Jersey. I am your host, Dr. Jeanne Muzi, the Executive Director of the Center for Future Educators at the College of New Jersey. The purpose of our speaker series is to provide future educators in New Jersey the opportunity to see the many facets of the profession, and we hope to provide just a little bit of inspiration. So all of our speaker series events are recorded and available on our website to view. It takes collaboration to make the CFE and its programming possible. The center is graciously funded by NJEA, and we are grateful that their support means we can bring programming like this to all of you. So today's program is our back to school edition, and we are really excited to explore what happens behind the scenes in schools to get ready for the new school year. It takes a lot of work to get ready for the school year, but this year required new degrees of flexibility and creativity because of the ongoing pandemic. Listen in to find out what type of planning needed to be done and how things are going a couple weeks into the school year now. So to share the secrets of back to school preparedness with us today is 2019 New Jersey State Teacher of the Year, Jennifer Skomial, a teacher of teacher education at Morris County School of Technology, and Jeanne Muzi, 2009 New Jersey State Teacher of the Year, who is the current principal of Slackwood Elementary School in Lawrence Township. Last but certainly not least, we have our magnificent moderator, Kimberly Dickstein Hughes, the slayer of Shakespeare, the lioness of literature, who also happens to be the 2020 New Jersey State Teacher of the Year and an English language arts teacher at Haddonfield Memorial High School. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it on over to Kim, and I'll be back later for some general housekeeping and our end of program questions that I'm sure you all can't wait for. Kim, over to you.
Thank you so much for that gracious introduction. I wish I had you for every single class period prior to teaching every day. So I'm going to record that for my students. Everyone, welcome to our Back to School edition. Thank you, Jen and Jeanne, for being with us today. And since we're talking about back to school, I want to actually start back before we even get into school. So could you tell us from a teacher's perspective and administrator's perspective, what a usual summer is like for an educator in your position? Let's start with Jennifer.
Okay, thank you for having me, by the way. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I just sent the link, so maybe some of my students will join also. All right, so normally summer for me is a few weeks of just like easing out of the crazy school year and trying to do play dates and catch up on doctor's appointments, seeing friends that I've been pushing off all school year, and just having a little bit of like downtime for myself and my family. But I am definitely one of those people who loves to plan for the upcoming school year. So I find joy in having like not so much of a rush or a timeline that I have to stick to, but being able to say, okay, today I want to work on looking at this curriculum, or tomorrow I want to read about this new thing. So I love to have that downtime in the summer to be able to do that.
Nice. Jeanne, as an administrator, what does the before back to school look like for you usually?
So a typical year, the kids would be leaving sometime during the end of June. In our district, it's very commonplace that administrative team takes off that July 4th kind of long weekend. But then when we come back, we are running summer programs in our buildings, really taking inventory and, seeing all the supplies coming in, providing professional development sessions, taking professional development with our colleagues, going to a conference. And then finally, once the calendar goes to August, it's, creating a master schedule, figuring out which kids are going to which teacher, all the kinds of small details that have to be put together to open up the school for the brand new school year.
So how did summer 2021, after a year like no other of hybrid learning, in-person, virtual, what did summer 2021 look like for each of you?
So for me, I was completely exhausted by the end of June. It was exhaustion. Like I thought I was the only one, so I didn't really share it with too many people at first. And then once I started talking to other educators, I was realizing it wasn't just me, it wasn't just my district, it was everyone. And it was really tough because I think I had so much going through my mind all year of like what I want to now bring into the new school year. And I know we're going to get to that in a minute, but it was a lot of that going on, but it was compounded with just pure exhaustion. And I'm like, I know I have so much that I want to do to make this upcoming year really good, but I don't even think I can do that until I really take a break. So we had a really awesome family vacation. I'm glad it was planned at the end of June, beginning of July. So we jumped into that. I did get to do some reading, and then I'm involved as an achievement coach in our district, which is a teacher leadership position. I was involved with planning a summer institute, which happened at the very end of August. So I spent most of the summer planning that with a colleague, and that gave us a lot of focus on what we were going to be doing jumping into September. So I didn't do so much individual planning for my own classroom, but I did a lot of collective, like, how are we all going to show up at this summer institute and really get what we need to be successful and for our students to come back and feel welcomed and ready to go in September. So it was definitely different for me this summer.
I think that the way Jennifer described the exhaustion was spot on. I think teachers were exhausted, administrators were exhausted, kids were exhausted, families were exhausted. And it was almost like we were empty. We had left everything we possibly could in the 2021 school year. So what was, I think, hard was not having that break of like relaxation, because as an administrative team, we needed to jump right into planning again. And it was all the what ifs, looking at our technology needs. What if we do have to go virtual again? We always have a robust food service or food program for our insecure food families. We ran our food pantry all summer long, which we've never done before. So that was something else to make sure we would, had in place. Our summer programs, became, kind of hand in hand with some student testing. And also we ran some vaccination clinics. And instead of creating a master schedule, now it was necessary to create 4 or 5 different schedules with what about this? What about this? We usually have 2 lunch periods. We now have 4 lunch periods, trying to figure out how to keep kids safe during lunch. Something as simple as, little kids, K through 3, they go to lunch. Now there were lots of steps in keeping kids safe. Ordering supplies, how many masks do we need as a district, as a school? Hand sanitizer units. There were so many small facets that went into making sure that this school year could start off smooth and safe. But again, it's always thinking, what if this happens? And it happened in our district recently. We have kids who are quarantining and need to come into our classrooms on Zoom. We had one of our 7 schools take a COVID break already and closed for 3 days because there became so many kids that were quarantining in. It was becoming, just untenable. So all of these things just mean we're going to be more flexible and agile as the school year continues.
Well, it sounds like to me, or what I would like people to hear, is that our administrators, or at least you, Jeanne, took this time to re-envision what the school could be for the community, but that's exhausting work. What have you done since this summer to fill your tank? It sounds like you did a lot during the summer, other than this call, which is filling your tank. But what have you done as an administrator? I know shout out to my admin. Thank you so much. You're building leaders and I love you. But what have you done to fill your tank?
Yeah, I think really literally walking away, like heading to the beach on the weekends was, so valuable. Checking in, family and friends, that fills your tank. I'm also really, really lucky to be part of a great administrative team. We have 4 K3 elementary schools in my district. And the 4 of us, we do refer to each other as we are the Avengers. And when the Avengers meet, we so fill each other up and we support each other and we share ideas. So I can't really imagine doing this in a vacuum alone. You need the support of, you need the little help from your friends.
Yeah. Well, with the powers combined, then what was different about the start of this school year? So what was different?
Jennifer, did you see that a tremendous joy? I mean, the kids
Yes.
and the staff, like those first couple of buses pulled in, and we had a PTO that did an amazing decorating job. There were balloons and streamers, and Chalk the Walk had happened the night before. So our kids came. There was this, you felt like you hadn't seen them in such a long time, and lots of, socially distant, high fives and things like that. But yeah, the joy of being back in school for the teachers as well, of doing, this is what we do. This is, where we want to be with our kids. And even with all the measures to keep everyone safe, I think every single classroom was really focused on, you belong, you are welcomed, we are all in this together. And that community building has been just, off the scales this September.
I think one of the things I can share is being in the hallway in the morning and greeting not just my own students coming in, but all the students down the hallway. I feel like the energy, like you were just mentioning, was so high. Like the kids that normally like would maybe morning, like not even say anything, are like, good morning. They're saying stuff back to me. Have a great day. And they're answering me. And I'm in a high school, so sometimes you don't get that. I know, Kim, you probably know this. Yeah. So it's like, they're responding. They're happy to be there. Everybody's so nice. And it's just like it's just a beautiful start to the year. And I think that it's funny because I usually have students, so I get them freshman year and they stay with me for 4 years. So freshmen come in and they're from all over the county, so they don't usually know each other. They're very quiet. It takes several months before before we get to the point where I have to say, okay, guys, we need to move on, because now like I need to pull them apart from the talking. This year, it started right from the beginning. Everybody was so chatty and so cordial. And I think they just miss that being together and being in the same space. And I missed it, like the jokes aren't as funny when you're saying them to 3 students. And you get it's more, it's contagious. Being able to jump around the room and do all these activities, it was deflating to have, okay, well, don't go too close. Sit over here. We still have the 3-foot rule in effect in our school, but it's definitely a lot easier to just run activities with them and have so much more fun than it was. I just felt like it was so boring in the past. So I'm so happy to be in person with everybody.
I think also something that you both keep referring back to are your emotions that are tied to school. Like I always think in June, I feel this period of sadness. The week school ends. It's like the worst breakup you've ever had, because you just had this relationship with 120 people as a high school English teacher, and then it's over and your kids are like, summer, and you're like, but wait. And then, but last year we were so exhausted, I couldn't even channel that sadness. Like that was too much. And I felt guilty. I felt guilty that I didn't feel sad. I felt like I needed to breathe. And this year that joy was palpable. And I will even say in the hallways, some of the students that I had last year who were masked, I'll see them and I'll be like, or they were virtual the whole year, and like, hi, Gavin, like, hi, Alexander. And they're so surprised that I can recognize them. And I'm surprised too, actually, with myself. But that feeling is so important. And that's, why we come to this place and why we're here. But in addition to all of those emotions, there were like tangible differences to this school year of like how we started. So what were some areas of focus that you in your classroom or in your school decided to start the year with?
Like tangibles, the concrete things, as Jennifer said, were those 3-foot, trying to keep desks a little further apart. We were so grateful not to be at 6 feet anymore. And for us, that saved lunch. We could not figure out a way of doing a 6-foot lunch. Now we're at 3 feet on one side of the tables and kids are in assigned seats. There's so many different changes, but that's okay. You know, we're doing it. We're lucky. We have an amazing nurse who is up on every protocol, you know, constantly communicating with families, making kids feel safe. I think that's the other thing that you know, we didn't want the current health and safety situation to dictate what school is,
Mhm.
but we wanted to make sure that we could keep our kids safe and
Absolutely.
healthy so that we keep our schools open. So all of a sudden it's like, I'm willing to do that. You know, I'm willing to sit on one side and I'm willing to wash my hands 100 times. And with our little guys, we've not had any issues with masks. You know, we have 100% masked at all times because, you know, except for outdoors to play or a mask break during snack time, the kids are doing amazing. So there were a lot of those types of things, but always keeping that goal in mind. The goal is keep kids in school, keep them here full days, keep them here 5 days.
So I know one of the things we did differently was we talked about not coming in and day one, handing out a syllabus and going, you know, handing out the textbooks and assigning the reading. And we said, these kids have not been in our classrooms, some of them for over a year, if they chose not to come back at all last year and they were virtual. So we said, they need to feel excited again about being in school, and they need to feel welcome, and they need to feel energized about being with us. So that was sort of like the feeling amongst the staff anyway, but then administration put in a new schedule for the first 2 days back where we did a delayed opening type schedule, or early, I forget which one, early dismissal or delayed opening, but essentially the morning, the first 2 hours in the morning were dedicated to meeting all of the freshmen, gathering with them, doing a variety of activities. We did a club fair, so they got to go around the school and see what different clubs we offer. We did a meet and greet between grade levels. So, for example, all of my future educators, 9th, 10th, and 11th graders were all in the same room, and we played different games, and we came up with what our banner would look like if we were to design a digital banner, which I guess they're going to start printing in a few months and have that ready at our first pep rally. So they did all sorts of team building and social emotional learning activities. Then at like around 10 a.m., we went into classes. And for the most part, what I think happened is teachers were doing a lot of those community builders and icebreakers, not the standard, which that never was my standard anyway. And I just, you know, over the years, it wasn't the way I was all along. It was something I learned over time, that you have to build that community first before the kids really want to hear, you know, the curriculum for the school. As exciting as I might have been about it, they were clearly not as excited. So I couldn't have thought of a better way. Like, I just think starting off this year was really positive. Everyone was happy to be together. It was very different. It was like the ideal school that you always want to have, and that sometimes you have kids that are like, they're not too happy. Everyone was so happy, and I still feel that way. I know that we've continued in my class where the students every class run a community builder, and I feel like I know those freshmen more than I ever knew a kid I had for a full year before I started doing something like this. So it's changing everything about our classroom.
Can you explain what a community builder is? You said that they run a
Sure.
community builder.
Yeah, so every class, what I used to do, we'll say 2 years back, what I was doing is I was coming up with these different activities. Like, one might be, we're gonna play Pictionary, and we would do it for like 5 or 10 minutes. Now our blocks are 80 minutes long, so that amount of time, 5 to 10 minutes, wasn't too much. Then we would do what would be the next class? Oh, for example, today we did write down a fear that you have. Okay, now we're gonna listen to a podcast that talks about like how fear is just in your imagination. It's unrealistic. There's all these ways you can get over your fear, and then the students would do some sort of activity with it. So I was always in charge of doing them until it got really exhausting, and it was just me adding something else to my plate. So the students all choose a date, and they come in with their own community builder. And it really does just what it says. It builds the community of the classroom. Students are more open. I am seeing kids that have an IEP and struggle in my class with a general education peer who will help get them back on track, share with them, like, you know what, I appreciate that, but right now we should be doing this. And I'm sitting there like, I don't even have to say it. The kids are doing it themselves.
That's
So
awesome.
I love it. And honestly, if I didn't assign the kids to do it, I'd probably forget here and there. And I like the consistency that we do it every single class.
When you were talking about community and both of you were talking about social emotional learning and how that's been a priority of this start for our students, how have your districts, whether this is your school building or school buildings that you work with, how have they prioritized social emotional wellness for their faculty and staff? Was there anything at the start of this school year, like a meeting was set aside, or is there a common practice? How are you seeing that manifest itself for the adults in the building?
A nice thing that happened for us, which in my memory, I don't remember it. We always have those opening day PDs.
Mhm.
And we started this year with our building PD day. Usually we all gather at the high school, everybody together. But it was nice to come into, when the superintendent determined, come to your home, come to your home and get with your family. And first, we weren't meeting any goals. There was nothing for us to do except for come together, have breakfast, sit for a while, talk to each other, talk about our fears, just like our kids would in responsive classroom, talk about our hopes and dreams. And when we came together, we talked a lot in my meeting about collective efficacy and all of us getting into that boat and rowing in the same direction. Even if you have other goals or other programs, we no longer can be apart and self-driven. We have to be in that boat, everybody, for our kids, and our kids and families in the same boat. So, but what the nice thing was, once we had our opening meeting and time, teachers had the rest of that day on their own. They could go to their classrooms, be with their grade partners, unpack things. And I don't recall ever having an unstructured opening. And the next day, we had sessions and everything, but I'll always remember that 2021 opened with time, which is the most precious commodity to a teacher in the opening days of any school year, but especially this school year.
Do you think that's a practice that could continue in 2022, 2023, and so on?
Always.
Yeah.
I think it should be, it's highly replicable and should be a priority. Definitely.
Because-
You come in and you don't want to, why would you want to micromanage a teaching professional's time as they prepare for, a grand opening? So, give them time to do what they need to do and trust them to do it.
Love that. I'm gonna come work for you, Jeanne.
Yeah.
I love that. I just don't know if, first of all, I'm definitely bringing that up to my administration. So I can't wait to share that idea. And I don't know, I feel like we always get the pushback that there are mandatory trainings that have to get done. And when would that get done? And I guess contract wise, would teachers then have to do it at other times? So, but I'm very curious about that. And I love all that you said about giving teachers the time. That's exactly what we need in our classrooms. Our school this year signed on with I guess we call it a practice in, I'm trying to think of what the formal term is, but essentially we have social workers coming in from their own private practice, and they've contracted with us to run various groups for students, for staff, for parents. So for example, on day 1 or day 2, one of the things we had to do was we all tuned in on Zoom from our own classrooms with the students. And we had a yoga instructor. He ran a 15-minute session. Then they had a mindful activity that a social worker ran. So it was maybe a half hour of time that we were in our classrooms doing it. And I saw in the beginning, the students seemed to have a little uneasiness with it. And I think it's one of those things, I even remember as an adult when I was going to sessions and this wasn't something I was used to doing, that I even felt kind of silly. But then I started oh, but this actually feels really good to just take a breath and take a moment. I think the more we do it, the students will be more comfortable with it. The first session was a little rough. I think it was just a lot in one day. It was a lot of different things.
So this was with the students?
Yes. So it was in each classroom, we were all on the same Zoom call, and the social worker, the yoga instructor, I don't know if the other
Like
one.
as someone who practices yoga, I think that I would find some discomfort in that too.
Right,
And I've been
the
practicing for
stairs.
almost a decade, and it's there's no one size fits all for social and emotional wellness and practice. And I think that's really important for everyone to hear. It's like a yoga practice might not work for everyone. And so that's something that I always find really intriguing about how wellness is treated. That said, to Jean's point, my school started as an unstructured start, and we actually had an HMHS Olympics. We actually had an Olympics, and we were outside and kind of doing those like fun recreational activities together as a team. And it was an hour of time that, as I'm thinking back in my brain to the beginning of September, like that stands out right away. And so, but it was great to be able to also have that side conversation or play jumbo Jenga with the chemistry teacher whom I don't often interact with. And so just rethinking about how we introduce people to spaces is what back to school is about. And something for folks on our call who are listening, especially for students, I think that's the question, like what do teachers and principals and what do they do during those professional development days and those half day starts? So it's a combination of mostly meetings, it seems, professional development to bring teachers to a place where they're, I would say, not perfecting their practice, but working towards improving their practice, right? And getting ready for the year. Before we jump into a next set of questions, I just want to know, this is secret information, what is your back to school ritual? Like the night before school starts, the day before, like what is, like how do you get ready? That's like a whole mental shift of like freedom to structure.
Should I tell you how I want it to be and then how it really turns out?
Yeah,
I want it to be a massage, a day where I don't have to cook, ice cream. And so let's see how it usually is. Me running around at the last minute getting groceries because inevitably I'm going back to school. My children are going back to school. So we have an empty fridge. We need to fill that fridge so everybody has food the next day. It's usually figuring out that we have some school supplies that are missing. So I'm assuring my kids like their teachers are going to be okay if you don't have a red folder. The kids don't understand that. They're like, she's not going to be happy. I'm like, she'll be fine. Trust me. She'll get you a folder out of the closet. It's okay. I usually, but seriously, I'll get my lunch ready. That's important. I want to have food on the first day. I don't want to have to run out. We can typically run out if we need to, but like I don't want to have that headache on my plate the first day. So I'll get lunch and some snacks. I have my outfit picked out. I have my bag all packed. And I probably, I don't know, do I order dinner for us? I don't really know about that. But I was going to say, normally I have a back to school, like restless night of sleep. And it's usually because I'm going through, like in my head, it's real time from morning till afternoon, what my day is going to be like, what I'm saying to everybody, the activities. It just is like every year. It doesn't matter. I'm in my 14th year, but this year I didn't have that. This year I slept. And I thought maybe it's because there was so much I wasn't in control of. There were things I didn't know. Like when I show up, I don't know what it's going to really be like in the morning. That maybe that gave me some like I could release that and just sleep. But this was interesting to me. That was the first year I didn't have a back to school restless night of sleep.
Nice.
I definitely had more of those rituals when I actually had off in the summer and had that, what Jen just said, like it's the end of summer break and you're going back. Now that I work 12 months, I had less of that, but I still have the restless night sleep because in my head, I'm going through all of the different scenarios. What about this? What about this? You know, kids on the wrong bus, buses are late, you know, all those kinds of things. But certain things that definitely make me feel better. This is my fourth September opening this building. And every time so far, I have bought a new outfit that is in blue and gold because those are my school colors. So this year I had a lovely blue polka dot dress with a little yellow sweater. So it says to me, this is a new school year. And it says to my kids, like, this is really special that I'm meeting you for this very first day. I also pack a really good lunch. I don't eat it until all the kids are gone. So it's a really good dinner. But it's
Oh
but
my
I think
gosh.
that those special things do,
Yeah.
make it. And I make sure I have a lot of extra pencils and markers and highlighters and post-its for those kids that say, my mother didn't give me. I'm like, boom, here you go, here you go, here you go. No
And
stress,
you go,
zero
oh, how
stress,
could their mother not
zero
send them?
stress, right? Do you exactly? Zero stress. That's it.
Well, so for
I love the dress idea. I'm a principal now. I'm going to think about the school
Yeah.
colors of the school I apply to, because they have to have some good colors.
Absolutely, yeah. So,
That is
but it's
beautiful. I
just,
love that.
it's really fun too. It's really, really fun.
I love these behind the scenes conversations. They also remind everyone like we're very human and the same feelings and thoughts that are going through our students' minds and and families, our teachers and administrators are also feeling. And so this back to school was also really different than previous years because there was some distance between our families and communities and the school as a physical space than previous years. And I imagine as a teacher and as an administrator, rebuilding trust and community has been a priority or a discussion. So, how have you done that in this first month in terms of rebuilding trust, rebuilding community for your school or your classroom?
I think one really interesting, part of this whole virtual learning was because our teachers were entering everyone's home, like they were in the home. And I used to pop around and look and see and everything. I got to see more of our parents. Like, there were bus kids that I never got to see their parents face to face. So, hey, it's you. And now I can recognize them when they are here, like at a school event. And, I know who everybody's connected to. I know brothers or sisters, or, oh my goodness, the baby got so big. And, there's all these things. So I think as much as everyone says, oh my goodness, if I have to get onto one more Zoom call, but coming in and being in someone's home, making sure that you are a kind and welcome visitor in their home was really important. I think one of the biggest aspects of trust, especially for little ones, is the promise that we will be keeping your child safe and that we will make sure that every day they know that this is where they belong and that we will keep them safe, but also that we have extremely high expectations. And we're going to make sure that, like, again, the whole boat idea, it's the same thing of having lots of hands all holding, your children up. And that's how we build that trust.
So it's a little different, I think, in the high school. Our opportunities to see parents are usually at back to school night. And if I'm chaperoning an event, I might see them like, I'm trying to think, even chaperoning, I didn't really see them. I'm thinking like at the prom, sometimes they would show up at the venue, but no, high school, we don't really see them as much. Now, last night I was at a soccer game and the one set of parents came by and I had never met the dad and his daughter's a senior. So if he wasn't at a back to school night, I might have been emailing with him for 4 years, or we'll say 3 years now. She's in her fourth year, but I never got to meet him face to face. So that was an opportunity last night. He walked right over, shook my hand. He's like, "It is so nice to finally meet you. I'm so-and-so's dad." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, I would have never known that." I've met the mom and I've seen her at a back to school night, probably freshman year, but in high school, it's been a little bit different, at least from my experience. We are doing another virtual back to school night. So this is now 2 years in a row that I haven't gotten to see the parents, right? So that's a little tough. I do a lot of email communication. I share updates through email with families, and I'll send pictures of their students working and of their children's work. I do keep an Instagram account for the academy so parents can see that, but I don't necessarily feel like I get to interact with them as much as I'd like to, especially because the ones that I have seen, let's say 2 years in a row at a back to school night, if I call home or if I send an email with a small issue, we're able to resolve it so quickly because they have that trust in me. And a parent that I've never really met in person, I think it's a little bit harder for them to just feel like, oh yeah, this person is in my child's court. It's not an us versus them. It's she's partnering with us to make sure my child is getting where she needs to be or where he needs to be. So I do miss that in a high school environment.
Jen, I would say also your program is really unique is that you're with your students for 4 years. Like that in itself is really special and does allow for those relationships to form in pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, or we're still in it, those feelings. I have another question. As I'm listening to you talk about relationships with families and communities, what are some, if you think about supporting students in terms of what we learned in the pandemic of how we can support students. So for example, at our school, we had office hours that were open and students could come. So if they were on the virtual call or even in person, they could come in and have this extra time. And we are implementing them this year that teachers do have office hours during lunch times or class and students can schedule. So we are using a lesson from the pandemic last year to meet our students' needs and also our faculty's needs. So can you think of a tangible example or something that did work during the pandemic or you could modify that you were going to continue using in your classroom in school?
I think for me, as I said, we're a K-3 building.
Correct, yeah.
And it was amazing from, say, April of 2020 to the present. I feel we finally got the amazing power of technology, what it could do for our young kids. And we talked a lot about it forever. You know, we always had, you know, technology lessons, technology carts, technology teachers. But all of a sudden, when it was the absolute that this was a necessity, it was amazing at how skillful and talented our little guys became as collaborators and creators. And I think now I hope, you know, to see, and we're seeing it definitely already, you know, kids who can work online together. I love, you know, I'll go into a classroom and, you know, there's a little girl and she's making a Google slideshow. And I'm like, what are you doing? You know, tell me about it. She's like, oh, I'm writing a play. And I'm like, wow, really? And she's writing a play with a girl in another classroom, you know, like another third grader. And like, to me, like, that's what we always thought was possible. So I just hope that it's not just seen as, you know, digital worksheets or online assessment, that these kids are able to really become the creators and the collaborators that we know that they're going to need to be in the future. When you think about it, you're watching a 7 or 8 year old and they're doing this. And it's so funny. Like, I remember my first couple of Zooms where I was failing miserably. And I'd have the kid like, hey, share, you know, make me the host and I'll show you how you can. I'm like, okay, you know, and, you know, kid's 7, it's amazing. So I hope that that is something that we take away as a real positive from this experience.
Jean, I have to ask, how old was the student working on the play? Which grade?
A third grader.
I mean, what? Because my seniors, I have them writing a play right now, so I really want them to know.
So, you know, at the early part, it's you're 8 years old, you know.
Yeah.
So, but I just love this idea of seeing themselves as a playwright. You know, like, I'm writing a play. Like, you know, it wasn't odd. She wasn't bragging. She was writing a play, very nonchalant. I can't wait. I said, like, you know, are you going to be performing the play? Like, maybe, you know, so we'll see.
It's a draft.
Oh, that's adorable.
Broadway
So my
students.
youngest is 8, and I have to share this. So when I was little and I used to play school, it was with a chalkboard. And then eventually when our schools got whiteboards in them, and I don't remember when that was, maybe like 5th grade, 6th grade, then I asked my parents, could I have a whiteboard? Because I needed whatever the teachers were using, right? My 8-year-old who's playing school is creating Google Slides, inserting YouTube videos. She knows how to insert a link into a slide that has a brain break. She's putting transitions and all this stuff in there. And I'm like, what are you doing? And then she'll play with her sisters. She's like, so this is our schedule for the day. And she has it all digital. I'm like, wow, has school, playing school, come to like a completely different space than it ever was. I love it. And
Awesome.
she has shown up. I think she even showed me something on the computer, or maybe she saw me doing it and then I showed her and she got it like that.
It's amazing.
So the reality, and I have 2 more questions. The reality is that we're still teaching and learning and educating during a global pandemic. And so what remains to be the greatest challenge? I can't say for this year because it seems like everything changes and we can't predict the future, but the greatest challenge of now So whether that's like this month or this first quarter, what do you think remains the greatest challenge of teaching in a global pandemic or leading a school?
I think one thing that I'm still struggling with is with everyone still being masked, I still think that we're missing that personal connection. And like, it's so much better, right? We're in person, but I'm just like, I just want you to see, like, I'm smiling at you. And I want to see more than this to like know if you really get it. And I can see your little, like, you know, you're picking or you're doing something. And I'm realizing, okay, that's when you don't understand, or that's when you're uncomfortable. Those things I really need. And a student said to me today, do you think by like the middle or end of the year we'll be without our masks? I'm like, I don't know, but I miss seeing their full faces. I think that's really like a connection that I want to have with them. But then I was thinking about, for my program specifically, we really need to be out in the field. We need to go see schools. We need to go see a nonprofit. These high schoolers need hands-on experiences. Right now, we're getting a little bit of pushback about, not that we can't go on a field trip, but some of the places that would normally host us are saying like, everyone needs to be vaccinated. You might need weekly testing. And we're trying to navigate that because we don't know if parents are on board with that. We don't know. So right now we're in the stage of, we have places that have said yes, but, and so now I'm waiting to get the administration to give me a go ahead, or here's what we do for students who maybe aren't vaccinated. Here's an alternative for them. So I'm like a little bit uneasy about what the next few months are going to look like, because the excitement of being in a program like mine is getting the hands-on experience.
Yeah. And it's interesting to hear, and we'll hear from a building leader and administrator, you know, administration admins, the unknown sort of does dictate some of the choices you have to make. You might not like all of those choices sometimes, and it can feel limiting. So Jeanne?
I agree with what Jennifer said about the masks, and you're right. Kim's saying, like, we're being told certain things. I go to a meeting and I'm really excited because I think this is it. This is the day they're going to say, okay, we're changing. And it's like, yeah, we can't say that because we don't know yet. And there's been like, it's just some hostility among the world right now.
Right.
Parents who are angry about masks and will come or call, or, and it's, the issue is not with me or my superintendent. It is a statewide law. So it's the governor and everything else. So some of it that's out of our hands, yet you still have to build those relationships, or, connect with the parents and make sure that the kid knows, we're all on the same team. One of the biggest challenges, I hope, as the year unfolds, I remember when we first closed, and people back in March of 2020, people were like, oh, teachers, amazing heroes, unbelievable. They're, holding up society and everything. And then somehow that kind of, the pendulum swung away. And I would love to return to some of the appreciation of what happens in schools, yes, in New Jersey, but really across the country and around the world, that what teachers have done in the last 18 months is just amazing, incredible. And I think that every day we should be recognizing that and applauding that. And that's, the kids are still learning and amazing things are happening in schools.
Yeah, educators are the cornerstone of society. And I think that is something that the pandemic did demonstrate for us, and we have to appreciate that. And so thank you for saying that, Jeanne. So that leads me to my final question before I hand this program over to our fearless leader, Dr. Del Coley. What's your takeaway from this back to school start? If you think about last year to this year, the 2 back to school starts, what's your takeaway for moving forward? What have you learned that will move you forward?
I think just, it wasn't something new necessarily, but maybe it was just really highlighted. Relationships matter with our students. We need to come together to learn. And I think that I learn best when I have my students with me, because together we figure it out and we figure out what works better for them. I can have a lesson plan, but unless they're with me and I can take them and figure out, okay, is this working? Is it not working? I think that being together for me has been the most important thing. And I want to try to find ways. The other thing I was just going to think, though, is differentiating it, is Not everyone, like I learn best with them there, but some students are learning better when they're doing things on their own. And I think that's okay too. So it's just maybe just seeing that it's okay. Change is okay. Change is good. Maybe that's my lesson, is that it's okay to not do it the same way all the time.
I love that. Sorry.
No, I just keep thinking of, I've learned so much. Like, I have learned so much. I've learned so much of looking at situations through different lenses, things I thought about families or, students, and that definitely has stayed with me. One of our school mottos is "Together we can." So it's like not just, the teachers or the students, but families. So that whole, we need our families to be our partners and to work side by side with us, all families. And I think that I've learned so much about the inequities in our educational system that if we cannot turn a blind eye on that and go back to normal. We need to work on solving and making sure that every kid does have every opportunity. So all of those, I mean, as I said, change is good, and let's do better. We know better, do better.
I love all of that. We are the creators of content. We are the creators of worlds. We're the creators of joy. We're the creators of change. And that's what educators do, right? We create in so many ways. And so with that, the creator of the speaker series is back. Jeannie Del Coley, Dr. Del Coley, I will turn the program back over to you. Thank you so much, Jen and Jean, for joining us. And we have another round of questions.
Yes. But before that, I had a question for both, for all three of you, actually, because we know now that we're almost a month into school at this point, and some students who are in your buildings now hadn't really been in a building full time before. So I know with Kim and Jen, we're talking probably what, 9th and 10th graders who hadn't been in for full days, and for Jean, you probably have even more. So how are the kids doing at this point with full day in school, coming back with so many kids new to the buildings and not knowing where things are and learning new routines? How are they adjusting?
Crazy, because we had second graders who left the building as kindergartners and had never been to the nurse's office or had no idea where the gym was. So it was quick. I mean, they got on board. I would say the thing that sticks in my mind most, remember that first week was only a 3-day week. It was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And I've never seen such tired children ever. And the kindergartners and first grades were like zombies, like walking out, like they were like, oh my God, a 7-hour school day. But we're great now. We're into it. And everybody knows, I don't find kids wandering around aimlessly anymore. So it's all good.
That's a big span of development between kindergarten and second grade for them not to have been in a building full time. So I'm sure there's a bit of a learning curve there for them to get back into the swing of things.
Well, and I was just thinking with Jean, like students who were in 2nd or 3rd grade going from a different building and learning
at those transitions.
Transition was, very different. I don't want to say lost, but it had to shift.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it had to shift.
What is that pivot, right? We were pivoting.
Yes, they were pivoting. The one thing I would say for our school, so we had, I think it was 1 or 2 days for 9th and 10th graders to come in to reorient with the school. And that was run by our peer mentor group. So that was facilitated for them. And that was happening while teachers were doing PD. So it was fun to sort of reacclimate together in that way. And I think that was helpful for our students, but that exhaustion was real that first week. Like everyone felt it. We're like, whoa, our bodies, their energy. And so yeah, that's been the shift. I think we're ready we are ready for routines, like regular routines.
I think my students are just very exhausted. Like today, what was it, last week, Thursday or something, we all came in and everyone's like, we're just so tired. I think it's just a lot, right? Like they were sitting in their beds a lot. Some of them were not changing. So now they're getting up early, they're in clothing, they're showing up on a bus. So they're having to do things that maybe they weren't used to doing for a while. So I think they're just tired, but I still think they're happier there.
And adjusting. We're all adjusting.
Yeah, those early mornings are really early when you
Yeah.
add in travel time.
I was losing my voice for pretty much most of this month. But I realized today, actually, I'm like, oh, that's good. My voice is back. It doesn't feel so raspy. So everyone's adjusting.
Yep. Okay. You ready for the lightning round? You want to do this? All right. Do I have a
I'm
volunteer
scared.
who wants to go first? Jen's like, no. All right, Jean, I'll take you.
I'll go first.
All right, Jean.
All right.
So, Jean, what is your favorite word?
Hope.
What is your least favorite word?
Hopeless.
Oh, if you could have any superhero power, what would it be?
Invisibility.
Ooh. What was your favorite subject when you were at school?
Art.
What grade or subject level do you wish you taught?
I always, nothing but first grade.
Okay. What subject or grade level would you not want to teach?
Never in high school.
Okay. What sound or noise do you love?
The ocean.
What sound or noise do you hate?
Whining.
There. If someone were to play you in a movie version of your life, who would you want it to be?
I got nothing. My sister.
Okay. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Writer.
And if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
You were a mom, a wife, a friend, a teacher. Well done.
Good stuff. All right, Jen, you ready?
No.
Yes, you are. Here we go. What's your favorite word?
Food. I don't know.
What's your least favorite word?
I'm so bad at this. A least favorite word?
Yep.
No.
Okay. If you could have any superhero power, what would it be?
Oh, reading people's minds.
Ooh,
That's a good one.
dangerous. What
That's a
was
good
your
one.
favorite subject when you were at school?
Language arts.
What grade or subject level do you wish you taught?
Probably elementary school. Anything elementary.
Okay. What grade or subject level would you not want to teach?
I'm scared of 5th grade though.
Okay, we'll delve into that another time. What sound or noise do you love?
When my girls are playing and they're getting along.
Okay. What sound or noise do you hate?
The whining, like Jean
Ooh.
said.
If someone were to play you in a movie version of your life, who would you want it to be?
Oh, I like Reese Witherspoon. I feel like she's
Okay.
so sweet. I want her to
Okay.
play.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Other than teaching, my goodness, is there something else out there? I don't know, maybe something where I could work from home.
Okay. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Here are your family and friends.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Well, thank you so much. And Jean, I think Sandra Bullock might be a good one. for
Okay, there you go.
Oh,
See?
yeah.
Right?
That's a good, I'll take it. I'll
I'm
take
thinking.
it. That's a
what I'm
good one.
thinking. All right.
That's a
Well,
good one.
thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. We really appreciate having you here. Thanks so much and have a wonderful week. All righty.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.